Moho will show you how. Oh, Moho will show. Bingy bongy. Bingy
You ready to craft? It's crafting time.
Bingy bongy.
Oh, hello and welcome to this Moho Craft tutorial where we're going to talk you through how to make this beautiful tech rest. So we've got two versions here. We have one suitable for a mobile phone and one more suited to a tablet or larger device. So let's just have a quick look at what they can do for us. So quite often when I'm crocheting, I use patterns on my phone and I just wedge it up by jamming it into a cushion. So I thought, you know what, let's make a little rest for the phone. So here we have got our beautiful little structure there to hold it up. We've got a bumper bar here to keep it in place with a nice deep dip so that it can't slip out. And then what I've added on this one is, I thought, I know if I'm using this for my crochet patterns, then maybe I could add a few little useful crochet bits on here. So we've got a couple of stitch markers ready and available for me to use. In there we have our trusty tape measure. I've got my 6 hook there, which I seem to be using the most at the moment, and some skizzers. So we've got optional pocket. This one does not have a pocket on. This is just a nice plain cushion ready for a bigger device. So they're really good as well, these, because they're using up lots of yarn scraps. As you can see on here, I got all of my yarn scraps and I just went through them in sort of rainbow order, and when I ran out of one I started the next one. It's worked in a stitch that I am calling alternating spike stitch, and it gives a really quite a firm durable fabric, so it's nice and supportive for your devices. So we pop that on there. Lovely jubbly. Right, let's get on with it and see what we do and what we need. Okay, let's see what we need then for this. So I am going to use this project as a bit of a stash buster. So I have gathered some of my bits and bats and dregs of chunky, and I'm going to use these. You can do it in chunky, you can do it in DK, you can do it in Aran, you can do it in super chunky. You can do it in anything you want as long as your yarns are all the same weight. Now you will need a hook that is one size smaller than is recommended on the ball band. So this is chunky and this recommends a 6mm. So I'm going to be doing the body of my work in a 5mm. But for the chain cord that we're going to do at the beginning for the foundation row, we want a hook that is bigger than we're going to do the rest of the work in. So we're going to be doing that one on a 6mm. So we'll start with this one for the chain cord and then move over to this one. Right, so the thing you need to think about is we're going to be starting this down at the front. So this is the bit that is going to be most visible. So you want to put there the colours that you want to see, and this will form like the bumper bar at the front of it. So I think what I'm going to try and do is maybe do a bit of like teal, then a bit of white, then a bit of the sort of sagey colour, then a bit of like white or creamy into it, and then that one, and sort of work up that way and see how that works out. So before we can start on the actual crochet, what we need to do is to measure the device that we're making it for. So I'm going to make this one just for a little mobile phone stand, but it's exactly the same principle as if you were making it for a tablet. So you need to measure the device when it is in portrait position. So that is when the long edges are here and the short edges are there. So my mobile phone, I'm filming on it, so I can't measure it. Didn't think this through, did I? But my mobile phone, I've measured it and it is 8cm wide by 16cm tall. So my first measurement that I'm working off is 8cm. And what we're looking for is 8, add 5, because that's going to give us the little wiggle room at the edges. So I need to make a chain cord that is 13cm long. So we get our little tape measure, let's lie it down there, and I'm going to make a chain cord that is 13cm. Right, so now when we're doing chain cords, we know that we have to wind off enough yarn to make the chain out of on the other side. So I'm doing 13, so I know that it's roughly about 2cm per chain cord that Chunky uses up. So that's 26, so that will be roughly twice as enough, but I like to play it safe. So I'm going to wind off a little bit more and I'm going to put it in there. So I'm going to tie a slip knot and I'm going to be using the bigger hook size. So I'm on the 6mm hook size here. And this is what we're going to use to make our little chain cord. Remember, my chain cord wants to be 13cm wide. So as we know, when we're doing a chain cord, lace yourself up properly with the strand that's at the back, and the loose one is the tail that's not attached to anything. And we want to go over to the back, back to the front, round and through, front to back, back to front, round and through. And we're going to do this until we have 13 centimetres worth. If you would like to see a slightly more in-depth discussion of the chain cord, how you do it and its uses, then we have got another video for that over on YouTube channel, where you can watch that and find out a little bit more about this chain cord method. But for now, I'm just gonna whiz through. So we want to keep it nice and loosey-goosey, and we want 13 centimetres worth. 13. Unlucky, but not for us. Right, so we're getting there now. Let's have a quick measure. And I reckon 2 more. There. So let's have a quick, so give it a bit of a wiggly wiggle. Oh, look, I shouldn't have done those 2, just 1. So that is, we're just sitting over 13 there. So I'm just going to pull 1 back, and we'll leave that at that. So I have got here, I've got my chain cord. It measures my width plus my 5 when under light tension or just sort of relaxed. Right, we can get rid of that then now. So it's now time to start the rest of the crochet. So what we must remember to do is to move over onto our smaller hook. Ta-da! All right, so we've now got our chain cord that is the desired length. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of the bigger size hook and go down onto the hook that we're going to do the body of the work in. Now we're going to do chain 1, and the instructions say turn. Now I realise that can be a little bit confusing, but we want to flip it this way. So we've got this nice row of V's going along the top, and each one of these is going to count as 1 base to do a stitch into. And our first set of instructions are to work double crochets into each stitch to the end. So I'm going underneath me 2 V's along the top, just like I would for standard crochet, and I'm going all the way along, just doing my little doubles. Double, 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 you know the drill. Right, I've now got to the end of my chain cord, and the instructions say not to turn, but to rotate your work. So instead of flipping that way, I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to work in the same chain cord stitches as I've made on the previous one. And I'm going to work one like for like. So if I've got a stitch in there, I do another double crochet in that one. So I did that one, and we're coming down this side of it. So we're going to create basically a pouch shape without needing to seam across the bottom. And we just go all the way along. It's quite easy. If you give it a stretch, you'll be able to see fairly easily where you should be going. So in, all the way along. Right, I've reached the end of my second side, so I've gone all the way down here, I've come all the way around, and I've come all the way back up here. Now the beauty of this pattern is it shouldn't involve any counting whatsoever. All we need to know is that we've got an even number of stitches, and if I've gone into each stitch down this side and each stitch down that side, I should have an even number. So I'm not even going to count it, I'm going to live on the edge. So locate your first stitch, which is this one here, and we're now going to start working in there, and we're going to start working in the pattern, which is going to be alternating spike stitch. So I bring my hook up, find me 2 loops of my first double in there, and I'm just going to do a normal double crochet in that one. Right, so that was that one. Then in the next stitch, so if you look here, the next stitch is there, there's the top where I would normally go, but instead I'm going to go a row below. So that's back into the same ones where that stitch was formed, back into your chain cord basically, down there. So I go, miss my V's, miss my 2 legs, and I do a double crochet in there. Don't pull it too tight or anything. This next one that appears, I'm going to do a normal double crochet. And then the next one is, I would go in there, but I'm not. I'm going in down there for a spike stitch. So it's normal, spike, normal, spike, normal, spike. So you know the drill. Now when you get towards this end, it might get a little bit trickier to see, but if you have a look at it nice and flat, then you should be able to work it out. So we're going to do a normal in there, then we're going to do a spike down there, and then we're going to do a normal up there. So I'm going a normal, then I need a spike in there, right down there. Come on, you monkey. There. Then I need a normal, and then I'm back onto the nice easy bits to see there. Spike. Normal. Spike. Normal. And we do that all the way until we get back to where we started. Right, so I'm back round here now, so I'm going to finish on a normal in there. So now this side that is facing me, this is actually going to be your outside. That's the back where you don't quite get the same effect. So it might make it a little bit easier now if you just poke that out there, because I've done my normal, so I need a spike. So all we're going to do now is we're going to keep going round and round and round and round, doing normal, spike, and I'll show you how that has gotten much easier now that we've got our first row set up. And we do that until we have reached our desired length or height, which is the height of your device plus 5 centimeters. So let's go on. So I've just done a normal, so I need a spike, and then it's normal. And we'll have a look at what they look like when we get around this corner. Spike. So if you're doing a normal stitch, your normal stitches should all have the long legs of the spike stitch from the row below them, because we want it to go alternate on top of each other. So on top of this spike one, we should have a normal. And then if you are due to do a spike stitch, you'll see it just looks like a normal stitch. So that tells us that we go in down there. So it's spike, normal, spike, normal. And you just keep doing that until you've reached your desired length. If you are changing colour, just change colour as you normally would. Just get the last 2 loops. I'd change colour on a normal, so get the last 2 loops of the stitch on your hook and then round and through 2 to pull it. And other than that, that's all there is to it. So I'm going to see it back here when I have reached my desired length, which for me is 16 centimetres of the phone plus the 5 centimetres I was instructed to add on. Right, I'll see you in a bit. All right, so let's see where we're at. So I've got to my desired length of 21 centimetres. I have fastened off my yarn. I've left my hook though, left my working loop, put a stitch marker on it there, and I've just tucked my tail, my remaining tail, and that end bit there. I'm going to come back to that afterwards. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make the bumper bar at the bottom that stops it slipping off. And for that, what we're going to do is we're going to sew across in a line and then come back and sew across in a another line, just using, you can either do back stitch, running stitch, whatever you want. So you need a piece of yarn that is at least 3 times the width of your pouch, and you need a yarn needle. So we've got one of them here. So, oh, and it's got a knot in it there. Look, that's no good. Let's get that out. Right, so I'm going to sew across at this handily placed here, almost like I planned it, little tube. And I'm going to go across at the bottom of the cream row and then come back across at the next one. Now we are going to stuff this as well. So I'll just pull this through. So we're getting a little tail here, so my tail will be on the inside. So we are going to stuff this as we go. So make sure you don't sew all the way across and then go, oh, I haven't stuffed it. So we're going to go to about here and then we'll stuff it and come back. Right, so I will start with a little line. I'm going to do a cheeky little back stitch, I think. So I'm going to go, I'll go 2 stitches forwards. So I'm going to feel your way through. You'll one side will obviously be the front and one side will become the back, and it doesn't really matter structurally, but if you've got a side that you prefer, then reveal that one. So if we then come up about here, oh there, are these going to be too big? Let's see, back in there, no, that looks all right. There, I mean, you're not really going to see these because it will be, in a dip. So it's just for purely structural. This. So I'm just going along. I must remember not to get too carried away and go too far. Otherwise, I'll not be able to stuff it. So I'm going to put a bit of stuffing in this little bit here now, so that it builds up as I go along. All right, found the stuffing. Right, so this bit, we want it to be firm, because this is going to be the base, but we also don't want to warp it too much, because if you shove too much in here, then there is every risk that you could make it not sit completely flat. So I just put it in piece by piece. I'm just shoving it in and making sure it's going right into my corners. So all that bit there has only really sort of filled it up to about there. Okay. Don't make it so full that it sort of bursts open and your stuffing's coming through your stitching. But we do want to make sure that it is an even firmness all the way across. Right? At the end, as you can see, I'm going to do a stitch right over the end just to really sort of pull that in and finish that off there. Right, now I'm going to do another row of stitches just along here, because I want this to be quite a deep groove. If it's not a deep groove, there's every chance that your tablet or your phone won't slot in as securely as it could do. So let me get this one out of the way now. Bits and bats everywhere, I'll come back to you. Right, so I'm going to do another row of back stitching just along here, just so it gives it a nice deep groove. Right, so I've sewn up one way and I've sewn back the other way. I've secured my end, I've gone around there. So what I'm going to do now is pass this back through here, and if my calculations are correct, and we turn this inside out, we should have two little ends here, yes, that we can tie together. Come on, you monkey. There we go. So with these two ends, I wouldn't normally advocate tying knots in crochet, but these are going inside and we're going to stuff it, so all is well. So then we should have something that looks a little bit like this. Lovely. So this is going to be our bottom bumper bar to stop our devices sliding off. Right, next stage then. All right, so the next bit is to get ready to close this seam. So if we just stuff it like that, we'll just end up with a bit of a flat shape. So what we want to do is we want to find the midpoint of this edge, and then we're going to pull those apart to form this seam that is perpendicular to this edge. So it will go like that. So the easiest way to do that is to sort of get your edge, make sure that your sides are flat coming up from there, fold in half. Now I would go for the one that is in the middle of the insidey bit, because the outsidey ones can be a bit stretched. So we'll go there and then lay it flat and find your matching stitch or your corresponding stitch on the other side and lay that in there. So that now when we pull this like this, this is going to be our seam, our opening. Okay, so what we need to do then is we're here, so I need to crochet up to there. So let's take that out, and we just carry on in the pattern of spike stitch, normal stitch. So I've just done a spike, so I'm onto a normal. Spike, I'm gonna get in the way there, isn't it? Normal and spike. Oh, I knew it. And normal. Right, so I'm at the top here and I'm going to start my seam. So I'm going to work that way along there. I'll take this out. I'm going to just go down a few stitches and we're just doing a slip stitch seam. So I want to go through that one, through that one. Have I missed one? Yes. Through that one, through the one I've just been in, there, and slip stitch. Okay, so you go underneath the two bars of that stitch, two bars of that stitch, and a slip stitch. Now don't pull these too tight because it will pucker your ends. So we go through and, oh, missed it, look, through and slip, through and slip. So we'll work down here, we'll go about halfway to 2/3 of the way down, and then we'll have a think about getting some stuffing inside. Right, so I'm about just over halfway, just about halfway of the way down, but my hole's getting a bit smaller. So because mine's a bit of a smaller pouch than yours will maybe be. So I'm going to stop there because otherwise I'll not be able to get my stuffing in. Right, now we want this to be quite sort of stable and robust like this, so that our devices will sit on it nicely and not kind of get knocked over easily. So I am going to put, these are toy filling pellets. They're not the heaviest thing in the world. A bag of rubble might even be a bit better, not like big rubble, obviously, just pebbles. Or I know you can get weighted pellets. So I'm going to pop these in here if I can get them in. I've put them in 2 plastic bags because if these pop, they're definitely just going to come out. I'll pull a couple more back because I can't get in. And I'm going to put this down at that bottom edge that way, so that it's providing like the weight for it, if you will, and it will squidge it in. And then I'm going to shape the rest. Oh, I've pulled all my stitches out. That was not very well done, was it? All right, I'll redo these and I'll be back with you. Okay. Right, we're back. So I've got my little bag of pellets right down in that bottom bit, and I'm smooshing that into the corner, and then I want to stuff this in that shape. So let's get some more stuffing. Now again, we don't want this bit to be like bulging and bursting because that'll make it rounded and then your device will not sit nicely on there. So we want it to be like a nice bean bag, but we do want the bottom to be reasonably firm, don't we, like that? So you can shove your stuff in where you want it to be. I would make sure you get some in the top corner, particularly up there, because that is where we definitely want some support, don't we, down this sort of angle. It will probably take a bit more stuffing than you anticipate, but I'm quite happy with that there. I would test my phone on it, but I'm still videoing on it, so that's not the greatest plan, is it? There, so yep, it's not rocking too much. If I drop that there, oh, lovely. Shape looks quite nice and uniform there. Lovely. Right, let's sew it up. So we just finish off our slip stitch seam. I'm working along this row, and we should end down at our last stitch marker if all has gone well. Take that out. Right, so we look at that for a game of yarn chicken. Just about won that one. Right, so I've got down to the bottom. I'll do a little I'll just do one little fasten off stitch through that bottom bit there, and then fasten that off, and then we can sew that in. Right, now if you are quite happy with that and you don't want anything additional adding on to it, then you are done. I am going to put a little pocket around the back just for storing useful things in, like maybe a crochet hook or a charging cable or other things that I tend to lose, like a tape measure. So let's have a look how we'd go about that. All right, if you want to add yourself a little pocket, then here's what we do. So we're going to make a chain cord that is the same as the height of the device, which should actually be just this measurement here, because there's your 5 centimeters. Right, so I'm quite happy with that measurement there. That is measuring the same measurement as my device. So where this pocket is going to fit is it's going to sit just around here and come up to about there, so that we can slide bits and bats in it, and we'll secure that down these sides. So I'm going with a bit of a same colour as that, but it doesn't really matter. Right, so I am going to do my pocket in the same stitch as I've done the rest of the body in. It doesn't really matter, you could do it in anything you fancy. If you want a little bit of variation around the back, then go for it. But I'm just going to do it the same. So my first row, remember, is just a row of doubles. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you've got an even or an odd number, as long as you remember what you start on and what you finish on. So we'll explain what that means when we get to the end of the row. So I'm just going to do, let's get that out of the way. Chuck it down there. Right, so my first row is going to be a row of doubles. So we just go double all the way along. It will look slightly different to the body of the wedge, just because we're working in turned rows now, as opposed to working in spiral rounds. But it's really not that different looking, and it does sort of help to keep the same structure or the same firmness of the fabric. But like I say, you could do any stitch you fancy for your pocket. Get creative. All right, so I've now got my pocket here, and I've got my piece here. Now I had this tail I hadn't quite sewn in, so I've worked this up to the point where the pocket's going to sort of cross over, and I'm going to use that to just sew a cheeky little line in the top there. And I've also purposely left my tails reasonably long, forgot on that one, because I'm going to use these to sew it in position. All right then, there she is. So we've got our lovely little wedge. It's not particularly attractive on the bottom, but we don't really care about that. How many of us are attractive of the bottom? So we've got our nice phone wedge. Again, I can't show you my phone on it because it's filming. But what we can stick down the back is you can stick some skizzers in there. You can make it a useful crochet little helper, and hook a few of your stitch markers in there for when you need them. Stick your hooks in, and you've got everything. Or you can have a charging cable in there, whatever you fancy. Oh, where's my tape measure? Let's stuff that in and all. So we've used up some scraps, we've got organised, we've created something useful, we've learnt a new stitch. What's not to love? I've done a bit of a bigger version here I've been working on. This is for Will's tablet. He's undecided whether he wants the pocket on the back yet, so that's why that's not got one on there. So you can have them of all shapes, well, not all shapes, all sizes, all colours, that's what I meant. Follow your heart, use up your bits and bats, and get creating. Right, I hope you found that useful, and I hope that you've got rid of some of your scraps. Show us your pictures, give us a shout if you've got any questions, and thank you for joining us. Bye-bye!
It's crafting time again. What's that? You don't know how to craft? Well, it's simple. You just let Moho show